Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Beyond the Pages podcast. Can you believe it? The third one. Where's all this time going? Anyway, today my guest is A.R. Grimes, or that's Angela Grimes. Fantastic author. Lots of great, interesting conversation coming up in this episode, and has the imminent release of one of her works as well, which is brilliant. So, great conversation. We had a really good chat about process, influence around this. We had a bit of a chat around imposter syndrome as well. So definitely make sure you tune in for this one. There'll be lots of great content for it, and you make sure you subscribe to this as well. And without further ado, I will start the podcast. Thank you. Okay, perfect. So I'm here today with Angela Grimes, or soon to be A.R. Grimes. I have got that right, haven't I?
That is correct.
Perfect. Thank you. That's a good start. It's a good start. I've got the name right. Yes. I think it's rule number one, isn't it, of doing a podcast, hosting a podcast, is get your guest names correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. So thank you for joining me. What we're kind of going to do is just go through and like I say, you can, talk. We'll ask you a few questions about your upcoming work, because what's different about this one is I usually interview people who've already either they've just released something or they've released works before, but you've got yours in the works ready to come out, which is great. And also I know there's some really interesting topics that I know you want to tackle, so we'll definitely do that as well. So first question for you, I know the answer to this, but for everyone else that's listening, where you're from and where you're currently located at the moment.
As you can tell from my accent, probably, I am not from the UK. I am from the United States. I was born in Wausau, Wisconsin, grew up there, went briefly up to Houghton, Michigan in the Upper Peninsula when I married my husband, Ryan. And now we are currently down in South Central Wisconsin, in a town called Sun Prairie, a rapidly growing town called Sun Prairie, just on the outskirts of Madison, the capital of Wisconsin. So that's where we are.
Fantastic. Excellent. Great stuff. Nice one. Perfect. So I know from our brief conversations that we've had previously that you've got some up and coming works coming out. Is it September that it's due to be released?
Yes, in September, my debut novel, Wildling Snare, will be self-published.
That's exciting. And do you want it now? I'm going to ask you a question. And the other people I've had on this podcast, right? This is a question that I don't like this when people ask me. So I apologize in advance, because I'm going to ask you to summarize your work. And as an author and a writer, that's always a horrific thing to do, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you then, in a nutshell, what's your debut novel going to be about?
Well, it's a young adult portal fantasy with strong Christian themes. So most of the characters are Christians. And basically, it's a story about a boy who's shoved into circumstances due to his guardian's death. He has to take on a leadership role that he is not prepared for and does not want. And to make matters worse, his best friends have been kidnapped or they're missing, and it's his job to figure out how to find them. So he's dealing with that trouble, and meanwhile, there's the bad guys are plotting to capture him, and and then one day he's searching for his lost friends. And he encounters this portal that opens to Earth, and he meets a girl his own age who, it turns out, has a lot in common with him, surprisingly. So then the story becomes like this tension between his desire to have a family and be make friends with this girl from another world, and also juggling his new duties as the leader of this area.
Perfect. That sounds absolutely fantastic. I love it. It sounds great. And I don't want to give too much away here. And no spoilers. We don't do spoilers here at all. And I know that it's kind of based in early 1900s at one point in England, early 1900s. Is that right? Or have I read that wrong?
Oh, that's something else I was talking about.
Oh, right,
it,
okay.
it's fine. It's very. I just try and just put out a lot of information in one sentence. So, Wildling Snare is on based on Earth time is in 1994.
Okay, right. Well
That's
out on the timing then. Sorry, everyone.
that's
We've cleared
still in
the
the past. You had the
It's
past
still
right.
kind of history. Come on. I love that.
Yeah,
I'll take that credit. I'll take that.
it is. Yeah, you got that much right. It's in the past. And and the bulk of the action takes place on this other planet or this other world called Tahara, where the main character is from.
That's
So
exciting. And what I like about it already is, he's saying that this person's guardian dies and goes away. So you suddenly have this sense of not belonging, and then finding someone who's similar to you, have common with, and then that sense of belonging again. I think that's the thing that I'm sure that will play a big part in it. And I'm definitely excited to read it for sure. Great stuff. So in terms of writing then, and all that kind of thing, is this the first time you've picked up the pen to do it, or have you been writing on and off for a long time? How does all that work for you?
I have been writing on and off for a very long time, at least 20 years, working on this particular project in one form or another. And I've actually been writing since I was in second grade. I started writing little stories about dinosaurs and which I was obsessed with at the time, and kind of branched out as my reading habits tended to go in other directions. Like I kind of veered away from the nonfiction and went into like mysteries and fantasy and all the different genres of fiction that kids can get into.
Great stuff. No, that's absolutely perfect. I love it. And who doesn't love dinosaurs? Dinosaurs are fabulous. If there's anything to write about, it's dinosaurs. I love that. That's great. And so, in terms of your influences, then authors that you really like that have made a big impact on you, who are those guys?
Well, let's see. I mean, it's a long list because just about everything I've read, and I've read a lot, has impacted me and my writing. But I think the ones that inspired me the most is, the ones that everyone always gives if they're writing fantasy is J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. I also really loved Madeline L'Engle's The Wrinkle of Time series. I love those books. And Ursula K. Le Guin, Earthsea. I know I didn't write that one down, but it just occurred to me. And the Belgariad series by the Eddings, like David and Lee Eddings, their series there was, I mean, it was so much fun to follow. I'm like, what if I could write something like that? That would be kind of fun. Um, and of course, the Wheel of Time series made me think, oh, I could write this huge epic story. And that's what it ended up becoming in my mind. So you can blame Robert Jordan if the series goes on like for 20 books. Hopefully they won't be as long as most of his books though, or Brandon Sanderson for that matter. I mean, great authors. I just really enjoy escaping to other worlds.
Definitely. No, I'm totally with you on that. Absolutely. No, that's absolutely great. I love that. That's fantastic. So your release is scheduled now for September. Well, what stage are you up to now? What are the stages between now and September?
Right now, it is. Like I have an editor looking at it. A friend of mine who is very good. Um, and I look forward to seeing what they have to say. And then after I make final revisions, I will be looking into getting a cover and formatting, whichever one of those comes first. Probably the formatting, I would think. And then copywriting, just to be safe. They say once you write something, it's yours. But since I'm self-publishing, I'm going to copyright it. And then once all that's set, I mean, I'll publish it, I guess. I mean, I have to look at my list. But yeah, I'm just leaving a little bit extra time in case I have trouble with the cover or formatting or anything, like a couple months in there for safety and padding. Yeah, so Those are,
Absolutely. No,
yeah.
great. No, all that makes perfect sense. Definitely. And I think you get into I say the exciting part. All of it is quite stressful, isn't it? I mean, if anyone
Yes.
who is planning to write or wonders what it's like, it is a stressful. It's a great process. I really enjoyed it, but it is extremely stressful. There's a lot going on. So just off what you were saying there, you were saying there that you're going to self-publish, which is also what I did. I decided to do that as well. And what was it that led you to that decision as opposed to traditional publishing, that sort of thing?
Um, it's just easier to just self-publish. I mean, you can put a quality book out there and not have to worry about going out and querying and looking for a literary agent. And 99% of the time, they don't care about what you're writing about. And even with publishers, I mean, if they say, "Oh, I like your work, but I don't want you to write that. I mean, I'd rather you wrote something else for us." And just like, you have like all the control over your own brand, your own world, and everything. And that appeals to me a great deal, especially since I'm working in kind of a more niche part of fantasy that, I don't want somebody telling me I can't, put certain things into it. I like having the control, even though it means it's a lot more bother for me to like try to figure out all these little details I have to do. And I mean, people have this misconception that publishers are going to do all your marketing for you. That's not true unless you're like James Patterson or Stephen King or something. They don't care. I mean, you're on your own. You have to have your own platform set up, and I think I'm able to do that with a little help from my friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm with you on that. And I think there's strong pros and cons for each process. And I'm not a million miles away from yourself there when I came to that decision. And for me, it was largely about so I've got a background in sales and marketing anyway. So that's been my career. So I don't mind getting involved in that process. And marketing forever. If anyone ever thinks marketing is easy, it is a tough old journey doing that. But I'm with you on this. I went down that route because I think that if someone wants to be traditionally published, great, that's fantastic. But I think not all publishers are brilliant. There are a lot of great ones out there. There are some that aren't. And I think once you've done that, you're kind of at the mercy of them, how far they want to carry it before the next best thing comes along. Then there's the point of royalties, protection against, getting, I mean, if it goes to like TV or it goes to film or something like that, there's then that conversation around those rights. And I wanted to cut out all those politics, and have it so that I own the works. If it goes great, that's great. If not, then that's on me or whatever. It doesn't. Whether you're traditionally published or self-published makes no impact on the story and the creative plan that you've created. It just doesn't impact it. So I'm with you on that. I went down the self-publishing route, absolutely. And I think it's quite an enjoyable. There's a lot of learning to be done, and I think if you don't
Yeah.
mind stepping in and doing that, then that's fine. I agree with you around the misconception that a lot of people think if you're traditionally published, because I think the writing world can be quite introverted a lot of the time, and that's fine as well. That's absolutely fine. But yeah, I think around the sales side, like you say, a lot of people think the publisher will do it all for you, and that's absolutely not the case. You're the person who wrote it. They'll line stuff up for you, but ultimately it's up to you to push that as well. And I think self-publishing in the modern world is so much easier than it's easier now than it's ever been to be able to. It's still not the easiest process ever, but it's a heck of a lot easier. So we have a bit of a theme today. I say a theme, I mean, I'm probably going to ask you a few questions around it, but around imposter syndrome. So that feeling of I'm not an author or I'm not a great writer, those doubtful thoughts that come up, and they must, I mean, aside from Stephen King or J.K. Rowling, I'm sure they get over it by this stage. I'm sure they're fine now. But for those things that come up around imposter syndrome and feeling like you're maybe not as good as the next person, that kind of thing, how's that impacted your journey and how do you deal with it and overcome it?
I think the reason it's taken me so long to get to this point is because of imposter syndrome. I I mean, I just kept it as a hobby writing over years and years. Like, yeah, maybe someday. I'm not good enough yet. Um, and yeah. I mean, I don't have the greatest amount of self confidence. out there, and I've read a lot of good work, and I'm like, wow, I wish I could write like that. And then I look at what I write and I'm like, this is utter garbage. Why would anyone want to read this? Who do I think I am? Um, and I think everybody has these thoughts no matter what they're doing. I mean, very few people probably get through life without doubting themselves at some point.
Yeah, and having some sort of effect from imposter syndrome. I mean, like you say, it's that creeping voice of doubt. I think one of the things that kind of carried me through, and it's a point actually I'm going to make later on my TikTok channel if anyone wants to check it out. But one of the things that kind of carried me through with it, one of the rules that I led with throughout the whole thing was I was writing for me.
Mhm.
So I have to love this. When I get to the end, I want to go, wow, as the author, I really enjoyed that. That has to be rule number one, because if you don't like it, how can you ever expect anyone else to? But if you like it and you're enjoying that process and you've seen it all come together, it boosts your confidence. And it definitely come around sometimes where it's like, I don't have a degree in creative. I don't have a degree at all, but I don't have a degree in creative writing. I don't have any qualifications aside, except from a half-hearted GCSE from 15 years ago. I don't have any kind of qualification towards it. And you think, who am I to be doing this, that kind of thing. But I thought, no, that's all right. I'm reading this, and you know what? I'm enjoying this. So if I enjoy it, surely someone else will. And yeah, you should absolutely keep putting metaphorically one foot in front of the other. Keep on doing it. Keep going. And if imposter syndrome or that voice of doubt is ever creeping in, my advice is always, if that voice is creeping in, my advice is always around it. Just keep going and keep writing. Even if you think what you're writing at that time isn't great, that's fine, because a badly written page beats an empty page every single time. Hands
Oh,
down.
absolutely. you
Absolutely
can't
hands down.
fix you can't fix an empty page.
Exactly. And nobody gets it right first time.
No.
No one gets it right first time. It just doesn't happen. You go through it, you reread it, you edit it, and then edit it again, and again, and again, and so on and so on. You keep going until you've got it to a stage where you think, oh, this is really, really right. So another question I want to ask you about, because I think this is really, really key, and it's going to lead nicely actually into another point that we kind of outlined earlier, which is around feedback. So being able to take feedback on your project. So who's your main soundboard for that? For your writing and getting that critical feedback.
I'll tell you this, I do not go to my family. I mean, it's usually a bad idea, and usually good friends are not a place to go. But in this case, one of my best friends, Huckleberry Rar, who is also she is a published author. Her third book is coming out soon. I go to her and I'm like, can you look at this? Does this make sense? And she'll read through and say, heck no, what the heck is going on here? Why did he do that? That doesn't make any sense. I think he should do this. And I'm like, well, let me see what happens if he does that. So I write, I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's a good idea. You can get crappy ideas too from people, but or you just put your foot down and say, no, I can't do that, because then that changes something down the road. But she really helped me figure out like some sticky plot points. Like I was stuck in Wildling Stare at this one point, and like, well, how do I fix this so it makes sense? Because it really didn't the way I had it written. And she said, well, why can't he do this? And I'm like, oh, he could do that.
Absolutely.
We get too close to our own work, and we have tunnel vision and we can't see, like we're on this path, and somebody else will just from outside the box just say, hey, there's another route you could take with this. So that's very helpful when you get stuck.
Absolutely. 100%. And around that, getting some trusted people to give you that, and people that have that credibility, to be able to give you that feedback, because there's a heck of a lot of people out there that think they're giving you feedback, but actually they're just giving you nonsense. Like,
Yeah.
if someone comes up to me and says, I don't like your book, it's rubbish. Like, oh, all right, yeah, that's fine. Anyway, have a good day. And
Yeah.
that would be me. But if they turn around and say, well, I didn't like your book, and here's why, and they gave me, I'm prepared to listen to that. I'm prepared to listen to that feedback or suggestions, that kind of thing. Absolutely. But yeah, I agree. I think getting a soundboard and that sort
Yeah.
of which this leads us into something nicely now, actually, as well, which is the social aspect to this, because, and I've mentioned this before on this podcast already, so I'll tackle this from a bit of a different angle. Social media is full of authors, writers, published, not published, self-published, people who write for fun, people who write for a living, people who write because they've probably got nothing else to do. There's loads and loads of people out there. There are a heck of a lot of great people and really, really talented people out there as well. There are also a lot of not very nice people and that sort of thing. So in terms of finding your crowd, which I think we've done that. I know we've done that. We found a nice crowd with great people.
Yes.
To be able to soundboard that. What's your experience with toxic people that you've come across? Have you come across anyone like that, or how's all that worked?
I have been blessed in not coming across anybody that's been toxic. I mean, the worst I've had is like ghosting and nobody, commenting or whatever on something I've said. And, that's fine. They can do that. I've been blessed. I believe in, if you what you put into something is what you get out. So if you're putting forth encouragement and friendship and being helpful, I mean, why wouldn't you get that back? You should maybe not necessarily feel entitled to it, but give people the benefit of the doubt and like take a breath before you like comment on something and just think, do I want to say this? How is it going to come across?
Yeah.
And most of us are adults online. I would, at least in these groups that, we're adult enough and mature enough that, we can think about the other person's position and be like, well, maybe they might not like the way I have to say this. So maybe it's better to keep my mouth shut, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. It's great that you've not actually run into and had incidents around that, because I as we're talking about Huckle, actually, Huckleberry Ra for everybody out there, which isn't that the coolest name ever, and that's not even not even a fake name. That's actually her name. It's fabulous. I love it. But we were talking about this very topic, and she was saying that she'd encountered a couple of people like that. If anyone hasn't heard that, definitely go back and listen to it. It's a very interesting point.
I've heard all about it.
Yeah, I think everyone in our group has. Everyone in our group has heard about it. But yeah, so I'm quite lucky in that, because I'm quite an opinionated person. I'm from Manchester in the UK, so I'm quite opinionated. And I also hold social media in a particular regard. To me, Ricky Gervais sums up social media perfectly. He says it basically is a toilet wall with writing on it that's made public to everyone, and that's all it is. So I don't have any particular respect for social media, if I'm honest. I get it, it's a kind of thing, it's modern, blah 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 blah, but what I'm saying is I don't take anything to heart that's on there. But from what I've seen around the toxic people, it's usually I've seen them being mean to other people or putting people down, that sort of thing.
Oh, that I've seen, yes. And I tend not to engage with them unless they are attacking someone that I know. Then I might make a comment saying, maybe that wasn't the nicest thing or the nicest way to put it.
But you're a bigger person than me. You're a bigger person, because I can't help myself. I'm like, oh, there we go. Nope, you're wrong, and I'm going to tell you why. And I jump straight in. So no, you're definitely, if you can go and ignore some of them, then no, you're definitely a bigger person than me. But no, I'm with you on that. I like to jump in on it, and because you find that a lot of people are very protective over certain points. I started a row not all that long ago, actually, on one of the groups, which was about trigger warnings in books.
Oh, yes.
And that kind of thing. Now, I get it. I get why people do it. I get why they put trigger warnings in books, that sort of thing. But my point, they were banging on about it like it was the savior of everything ever. If you put a trigger warning in, everyone will be safe. And it's like, no, you're wrong. Catastrophic. You're massively wrong. A trigger warning it's a nice thing to put in, but it's not that effective. So I didn't just gripe and say this isn't very effective. I actually came up with a solution. Anyone who's interested in hearing about the solution, I'm not going to go on about it now. You can find it on my blog. I actually gripe about that on my blog, and you can see the solution I for that. But my point being is that as soon as I disagreed with, there were several people on this thread, as soon as I disagreed, whoa, the abuse that came down for disagreeing, having an opinion that was different from theirs. So that,
oh my goodness,
there is a lot of that. Anyway, the point of me raising this is not me going on about how I run around with a metaphorical sword saving lives on social media. It's nothing to do with that. It's basically, my point is, don't take social media too seriously. Don't take people's opinions seriously, and just keep doing what you do. You know, if it don't matter what you think or what you think other people are going to think of your book, you know, you just keep on keeping on, do what makes you happy. I think that's my ultimate advice
Yeah.
to people.
20 years ago was a different story, but now I just don't care. If you don't like what I have to say, okay, you go and like your own stuff, and I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, and the people who like it can follow it, and those who don't have to. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. No, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. It's you know, and you'll find that people that like your work will gravitate towards you, and those people, you know, be the ones that surround you. So I'm absolutely with that. I mean, you know, I think you'd have to be crazy to follow something or someone or someone's work that you didn't like. I mean, I don't like Catcher in the Rye. I think it's an awful book, but I don't go into Catcher in the Rye fan clubs going, it's rubbish. Like, I don't do that.
I
But
actually found it hilarious to read. I was reading it and laughing half the time because I'm like, what is going on?
oh man, I have to be honest. At one point, it did bring me to tears, actually, of boredom, and I've never had that in my entire life. I've never been bored to tears before. But no, I just didn't like it. I mean, I kept searching. I was watching reviews on YouTube because I thought, is it me? Am I getting this wrong?
No.
Am I getting this wrong? And I went on YouTube, and those that really liked it couldn't give me a tangible reason as to why they liked it. They're just like, oh, it's the way it's written and the atmosphere that's created and that sort of thing. But I've got no relativity about it either. I can't relate to any of the issues in it. So maybe if someone's been in a similar situation, whatever. But to me, it
Yeah.
was just like a spoiled kid who kept getting kicked out of private
Yep.
school, and yeah, it wasn't.
I kept looking for a deeper meaning because I thought, oh well, there's got to be a deeper message here, and the whole idea of the catcher in the rye, and what does that mean? And it's like I was looking and scouring the text, being like, I don't really see it.
No,
And maybe that's my loss, but it was, you know what? It's not my favorite book, but I didn't dislike it. I'm like, this is interesting. It's a different way of looking at something, and everyone can think what they want.
yeah, no, absolutely, without a doubt. And you know, it's down to I'm with you. It's not my cup of tea either. And like you, I did stay with it and read it to the end because I thought surely it's going to build to something. It felt like there was a build that just never came. But you know, it's horses for courses, isn't it? You know, you either do or you don't. I mean, I'm a big Mark Twain fan. I love Mark Twain's work, and
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
a lot of people don't, and that's absolutely fine.
Oh, he's great to read.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I what blew me away with his work, and before anyone says it wasn't the memes of that people pass around on Facebook of things that he either did or didn't say. It was for me I think Mark Twain was extremely ahead of his time. Like
Mhm.
the way that it's written so informally, because back then it was very formal, structured,
Mhm.
write in a particular way, and he broke all the rules. He broke all the rules about what you can write about and coming up with ideas. You know, if anyone's read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn,
Oh, yes.
that's controversial for its time. It's a really controversial book, but I think we need those people to kind of, you know, advance the world, and I think that's definitely what he did. So that's why I'm a big Mark Twain fan for sure. But yeah, that's that. So right, okay. In terms of your works now, so what I'll do is your blog and your websites and everything for everyone on the link, because this will be posted on the Book Cream website on the podcast. Everyone can see your work there as soon as it's available to pre-order. They'll be able to see the links and that sort of thing on there, so they'll be able to check all of that out. But yeah, how's the interview been for you? How's this podcast been for you? I hope, you know, it was like the Catcher in the Rye. It was so boring. I thought you were going to build it. You didn't.
Yeah. I've been enjoying talking to you.
Great stuff.
This is
Great
nice.
stuff. Well, that's good. It's good feedback from me. It's good feedback from me. Excellent. Great stuff. But yeah, perfect. Well, I don't have too much to carry on waffling to you about, and I think I should probably let you get on with your afternoon. I'm going to get on with my evening.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. But thank you so much for joining me on here. It was great to chat to you, Angela. Like I say, all the links for your works will be available on the website. So anyone who's interested can jump on and check all of that out and pre-order it and all of that lot. And yeah, perfect. Thank you very, very much for joining me.
And thank you. It was an honor to be on your podcast
No
and talk to
problem
you.
at all. No problem at all. Perfect. Thank you very much. And everyone, you're listening to the Book Cream Beyond the Pages podcast. I should have mentioned that earlier. I didn't. That's what it's going to be called. And I didn't mention it until now, but never mind. Right, perfect. Thank you very much, everyone. Take it easy. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. Just before you go, just before you crack on with your day, one quick question for you. Do you hate boring stories and boring novels? Me too. There's nothing worse than a predictable, linear, flat plot line with no real character development in it. It's a nightmare. Anyway, if you're not into that, and if you are into real emotional attachment to characters, a thick plot that you can't predict, you don't know where it's going, something that's layered, and it will leave you with something once you've finished it, a bit of fantasy in there, a bit of magic in there, a bit of time travel, a bit of sci-fi. It hops across genres quite nicely, pretty timeless. You could even drop in a bit of historical fiction in there. Definitely check out The Commodore and the Matterless Martyr. Head over to bookcream.co.uk. Pop that into your browser, on your phone. There's links on this as well to check it out. But honestly, check it out. Click onto Amazon. You can even have a quick sample for free. You can check it out, the first bit, for free, for nothing. That's crazy, isn't it? Make sure you jump on there and check it out. And enjoy. It's on Kindle Unlimited at the minute as well. Thank you.